Watch out for the hole.
What hole?
Watch out for the portable hole! Rock out to the portable hole! Watch out for the portable hole! Rock out to the portable hole!
Welcome to the Portable Hole Podcast. I'm Ryan George, and I'm here with my good friends Justin and Cynic. How you guys doing?
Good. I'm down here in Nashville and just been working on things down here. So working on a lot of songwriting, which is good.
Still country
Probably head
or a different genre?
Mostly country, but a few other things as well.
Yeah. When are you coming back to New York?
So I'm going to be, well, it's Wednesday now, so I will be leaving. I don't want to drive on July 4th, so I'll probably leave on Friday and not hit any insanity. Plus, I don't love the idea of driving on things like July 4th. There's always like drunk drivers and stuff on the road. It's probably, especially if you're driving in, 2 7-hour shifts, probably best to avoid it.
Yeah. How you doing, Cynic?
Well, not so great, Ryan. My central air unit died, which I was going to replace at the end of summer anyway, but it decided to go ahead and jump ugly early.
So what are you going to do?
We're going to get them both replaced. We have a plan. The local electric company will basically put them in for free and then, charge you interest-free for like however long it takes to pay them off. So
Okay, cool.
yeah, it works out. I mean, it's more than affordable, and I think they give you like a 10-year warranty on them, which is fantastic.
Nice. When are they installing it?
Tuesday, so I had to go out and buy some portable units in the meantime because it was warm.
Yeah. It's been today's not too bad, but at least when I was outside today, I don't know how it got, but it was
brutal.
It's been a rough week.
Welcome to home ownership. It's always
that's
something.
That's what I was explaining to my better half, is that it's,
Never ending.
If it's not one thing, it's another.
Yeah. It's like, sounds good and is, but it's like the headache that, at least when things break down, you can call the landlord and be like, all right, fix this.
But home prices and rents just keep going up and up and up.
That's
so it's a good time to own.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially in New York, where things are not cheap. It is not cheap to live here, but by any stretch.
We just got a from our buyers. We just got a whole list of basically demands, being like, well, we want $8,000, and we want you to fix this. Like, okay, we'll see what we got to do. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. When does the sale go through?
Supposedly August 30th.
All right. Well,
are you going to be around? Are you going to be around around my birthday? You usually travel leave.
On your.
You usually travel.
Always travel.
Are you traveling then?
Yeah, because Anna works summer school, so and that it ends like around the end of August. Okay. So I'm not sure. We'll see. We do have something booked.
There was one.
There was one year that we weren't. Yeah, it was a few years ago. I think it was.
The question is, are you guys going to be around on my birthday, which is coming up?
When's your birthday?
We've talked about this, and I'm not going to say it on air.
Okay, all right.
It's around when Deadpool comes out.
Okay, all right, yeah. Well, I'll be around then, definitely. So,
and we have, and we're doing, and for everyone out there, we're starting our little D&D league. I'm an elf. Can I like my? Did you guys like my elven name and backstory?
No, your name is terrible.
Yeah, it's the worst.
It's a great name. Yeah. What do you mean? It's a great name.
You're gonna have to come up with something. You're gonna have to come up with.
I'm just gonna take to calling your character Justin.
Yeah, come up with a real name. All right. Anyway, let's get into. Yeah, maybe if it goes well, maybe we'll do a D&D podcast.
Now you leave everyone wanting to know what this name is.
All right, if you want to know what the name is, then comment, and we'll post it if enough people ask on YouTube. If all 8 of our listeners ask on YouTube, there's no way to comment on a podcast. If a decent amount of people listen on the podcast, so YouTube, not so much. But anyway, comment, and maybe Justin will share his ridiculous name. All right, so anyway, let's get to we have 3 reviews or kind of reviews. We'll talk about Game of Thrones and The Boys, and we'll share a little bit on the Acolyte, which not a lot went on this week, so not going to do a full review. But first, we'll talk a little bit about what we've been watching. So, Cynic, what have you been watching recently?
Well, over on the Paramount there's two documentaries that have caught my eye, and I sat down and trudged through them, and they're actually very good. One was called How Music Got Free, and it was the story about how everything was being pirated around the time of LimeWire and Napster,
Oh yeah.
and how they were getting it
I
before it
gotta
was
watch
released,
that.
which that's super surprising how it was all taking place and how they found out about
Oh
it.
really? Interesting.
I have a feeling that Eminem and maybe 50 Cent were behind it because they're all over the documentary. So,
Interesting.
and
Yeah.
a lot of the people, Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre. And so I have a feeling that that probably came from their camp because it impacted Eminem, the most out of a lot of the artists that were being pirated at the time.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it's interesting. It takes a definite turn. I won't spoil it, but the leaks weren't coming from any place that you would guess, which is
Interesting.
kind of
Okay.
interesting.
All right, I'll check that
And
out.
the second one is also on Paramount. They released a documentary about Lollapalooza, which
Okay.
was very good. It was the history of Lollapalooza from the very beginning with Jane's Addiction all the way to the very end, where they end up in Chicago on a yearly basis.
Nice.
Excellent. A lot of stuff with Perry Farrell, a lot of stuff with the groups that were there in the beginning, Ice-T, just real fantastic stuff. And if you grew up in the Lollapalooza era, which I did see a couple of them, it's great to go back and relive that. And
Which
a
we
lot of stuff happened
certainly
with it that
did.
I didn't even realize. So it's worth a watch.
Yeah, that's cool. Paramount kind of has some good stuff.
Yeah.
Compared to the other things, we've been watching Evil, which is really good. It's a tough show. It's like a network. I don't know if it started on network, but it's kind of like a network. It has a networky feel, but it's kind of it's a group of there's basically Mike Coulter plays a priest, along
He's
with
fantastic.
there's a skeptic and then a scientist, and they go kind of investigating kind of interesting weird things, it's got a supernatural feel, kind of horror feel at times. It's really funny at times, just really well done. But we've been watching that. And the big thing, we actually binged the entire season of The Bear. So I know, Cynic, you're a big fan of seasons 1 and 2. Justin, have you seen The Bear?
I haven't, but I will. That's probably the next.
Yeah.
That's the next. That's the next show. After I'm done with.
So The Bear is a great.
with HOD.
Yeah. So The Bear season, The Bear's a great show. Seasons 1 and 2 were awesome. Very, masterful use of tension, great characters, great dialogue, great writing. And I think, I know that the reviews for season 3 have been kind of all over the place. And I without giving too much away, I think season 3 is a bit of a mixed bag. To a large extent, I feel like it is a season that they kind of bought into how good the show was and the critical acclaim, because it very much is like the entire season is very self-indulgent. It feels like, you get with The Bear, with the first couple seasons, like you get 1 or 2 episodes that were like clearly like, okay, this is the auteur episode. This is the one where we're just going to kind of go for it and do something artsy and not care about it. And that's fine. That's totally cool. One of the things that makes the show work. The problem with this season is it feels like the entire season is like that. Like the very first episode, actually. So the very first episode you watch, there's a song. It reminds me a lot. Trent Reznor is one of the composers, and there's a song that reminds me very much of a Nine Inch Nails song. And it basically, the entire episode is just like a montage with this song over it, which I really liked. Problem is that the rest of the season gets so artsy and up its own ass at times that like it was a little too pretentious for its own good. And so what happens is, because of that, because it was playing with timelines and doing a lot of flashbacks, there wasn't much momentum, there wasn't much narratively that happens. Like there's some good character work, it's funny at times, you learn some things about characters, but there's not the same kind of tension that the show like thrives on. That tension that you feel the first 2 seasons you don't get here, and so it just never quite lives up to the first 2 seasons. And I think to a large extent it's just kind of, again, it's just a little pretentious. And so I'm hoping that next season kind of comes back to brings it back to normal. But that was a disappointing thing with this season, is just that didn't get that tension and that anxiety that the show's supposed to really produce for you.
And that was my worry going into it,
Yeah.
because the least interesting parts for me in the first 2 seasons were where Carmody was the chef, the high end chef, and him and the conflict going along with it, and the kind of PSTD he was dealing with from it. And I thought the show survived in a bubble where you rooted for them because they were lovable losers. And now that they're getting semi-successful, I worried that it was going to go back into the parts that I didn't like so much.
Yeah, well, and you're really gonna hate this season, from that perspective. The thing is, there's a good setup for how to make it work in that environment, but I just don't think they hit it because I think again it was just so focused on being artsy too much of the time. And there's some good cameos. There's one cameo that will take you out of it, whether it's good or not. Like I thought it was funny. It's going to completely take you out of it. But again, worth watching if you're a fan of the show, and I'm hoping that next season gets back to what makes that show work. But and so Justin, have you been watching anything?
So the question,
Yeah.
So the first question I have is for someone like me who hasn't started watching it yet. Does knowing that season 3 is a bit of a letdown, because with the way you're saying it, like that you're not enjoying season 3. Was that a letdown for saying no? I should, should I let that influence me in watching seasons 1 and 2?
I would say no, because seasons
Okay.
1 and 2 are so good that, and it's half-hour episodes. It's 8 or 9 or 10 episodes a season, something like that. Yeah. So it's not a huge buy-in, right? You're not wasting a ton of time, and they're so good that it's worth it. Now the challenge is, it's not like a show where season 2 ends cleanly, and then you could take or leave season 3. In this case, like season 3 happens right after season 2, and the events of season 2 lead you into it, so you want to know what happens. And so that's some of the frustration, but definitely I would still watch it. And I'm not saying season 3 is bad. It's not bad by any means. There's some really good stuff. There's a couple of great episodes in it. It is artsy, but I think the problem is just that it's not the same as the previous 2 seasons, and that's the problem. So it's not bad by any means. It's not like what again. I think there was some redeeming qualities of like season 8 of Game of Thrones, but like it's not the drop off that you get from like seasons 1 to 6 of Game of Thrones, and then season 7 and 8. Is that not that kind of drop off in quality? It's just like it's doing different things, and I think it's not the thing that it does the best. We don't get that, but it's still totally worth watching.
I went into that show not thinking that I wasn't going to like it because it's not really my type of show, and I ended up loving it. So the next 3 seasons could be garbage, or worse than Ryan saying it, that doesn't undo what they did in the first 2 seasons, because the show was thoughtful and beautiful and really gripping.
Yeah, and again, in a vacuum, almost every single episode of the season is good and has something of value to it. Except one that I think is mixed. There's one episode I just thought was incredibly boring, but I know other people that thought it was great. But every individual episode's good. It's just that it never does what the show does best. That's it. All right, Justin, have you been watching anything? Or are you just trying to keep up with all of our shows?
Keep up. One thing I saw that there's some new 30 for 30s, and I'm a big fan of sports documentaries. So one that they did which is a little off the beaten path, and I was actually surprised to see it, and because it's something that's always interested me, was the Coney Island eating competition. Like the hot dogs, and it's one of those things that even if you're not interested, you want to see like sports documentaries, and it's hard to call that a sport, right? Competitive eating, but I think it's interesting enough, even if you could just care less. It follows Kobayashi and Joey Chestnut and those guys, and it kind of gives you some insight into a little slice of life, and that's not the first thing on competitive eating that I've seen, but it sort of makes it accessible, that even if you don't like, you think it's disgusting, you're like, I could care less about competitive eating, it's still a nice watch, right? Because obviously they focus on the characters, but that's all. There's not too much to say about that, but I don't know. I've always enjoyed competitive eating and like the concept of it, maybe because it was funny, but and it's such a very American thing, the idea of like how many hot dogs can you stuff, in your face in 2 minutes or something like that. So, and I guess in reference to tomorrow, which we're going to, we'll see, they'll do it again, and we'll see who takes the crown this year.
Well, it won't be Joey Chestnut.
Yeah.
Now, after he won his first one or two, he was on Howard Stern and did like a long form interview with him. And he does train like a professional athlete
He
because he's
does,
got to
yeah,
burn
that's-
all these calories after.
It's true.
Like he was in fantastic shape. I believe he's no longer part of it because he
Yeah.
signed some sort of deal with
Yeah,
a non-meat hot dog company,
Mhm.
which I don't know why, Nathan's would have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Talk about biting the hands that feed you and not
Yeah.
swallowing.
Well,
You
it
know,
might be that
it's just-
Nathan's. Maybe it's not that Nathan's had a problem. That maybe it was that the other company had a problem with it. Maybe they're like,
No,
we
I
don't
think
want you
Nathan's-
eating. If you're signing this, we don't want you eating the meat hot dogs. We don't want you making that appearance. So maybe that was part of his contract.
How long can you do this for anyway? I think he won like 10, 12 times.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
he's-
time to hang
I
up
mean,
the
Exactly.
I think so.
You can hang it up.
hot
Especially
dog
the-
helmet and just not kill yourself.
Yeah, seriously. So, all right. So let's get to our reviews because we got a few things to talk about. First thing we'll talk about quickly is the Acolyte. Justin hasn't seen it. I think has given up on it. I'm shocked that Cynic hasn't completely given up watching it. But episode 6, right, dropped last night. And what were your quick overview or review of episode 6 of the Acolytes?
I mean, there was just not a lot going on. We split the sisters off into opposite camps, and hilarity ensued. Actually, nothing ensued, if we're being honest. Just a lot of dialogue. Once again, unfortunately, they've named Manny. Would we decide his last name is Jacinto? The stranger,
Jacinto, yeah.
which
the stranger
has all kinds of negative connotations to it. But they named him the stranger, but he was the most interesting part of the interview. And what Ryan and I were saying before we came on air, we kind of wish the show was just about him.
Yeah. Him
hunting Jedi would be perfect rather than dealing with the Asha and Maya and all that nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I think, part of it is it's frustrating because I think they gave him that mystery that you want in a character, and they're giving him a lot. He's got a lot of good stuff to work with, and he's interesting. He's got his good performance, and we want to know, like, okay, he was a Jedi. He's extremely powerful. He's got a good look. So he has all these things that are really interesting. Why get this in episode 6, right? When we only got 2 more left. And I think, unfortunately, this episode was very much like, as we talked about earlier, Cynic, and you said, it's like it was a filler episode. And there was good stuff, but I feel like a lot of this stuff could have been spread out over other episodes.
Yeah.
Or we should have just gotten this earlier. Like, this should have been episode 2 or 3. Him trying to seduce Osha over to the dark side. There's really good intrigue here, because it's like you have these twins who are on opposite sides of the spectrum, and now it seems like anything could happen, right? Like, Osha could turn to the dark side, May could turn to the light side,
and I don't
Saul
care.
could turn. Well, see, so I
does it make a difference to the same person?
Yeah, it does. I think her performance is good enough that I feel like they're different characters. I do think she's.
But
done a
I
good
mean,
enough
if you
job.
take the exact same person and swap them in places, does it matter?
That's a fair point.
We end up in the same spot that we were. It could have been The Stranger versus Saul, and it would have been a better show. If they were just hunting this unknown Sith,
yeah,
it would have been a better show.
Probably, quite possibly, right? Like that we could have gotten it, but I still don't think. I think her performance has been good, and given what we have of the show, there's good intrigue. I'm interested to see if we do have this like double switch, between the characters. I'm interested to see if Saul turns, or what's the deal with the Jedi with the. Well, what were your thoughts on the whip lightsaber?
I mean, it was a gag.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was cool. We saw a little bit of it, and then it went away.
Yeah.
I mean, I really feel like they busted their nut 30 seconds into lovemaking.
Yeah.
Last week was amazing and exciting, and I was like, oh, I want more of that. And we completely hit the brakes and went from 70 to 0.
Yeah. So that's unfortunate. I think it's like a pacing issue, because I think all the stuff, this episode does some good things with the show and makes me interested, but it's at a weird spot. And I don't know what this show wants to be, or what they're going to do, or how they're going to stick the landing. So yeah, it's like, look, it's Star Wars. I'm going to keep watching. At least we have an interesting character, and maybe they can pivot for season 2, depending on what happens here. But yeah, it's like, it's just a little, it's like, it's a lot of weird choices made for this show.
Right now, if I gun to your head, Ryan, what do you think the percentage chances are that we see a second season?
I think it's pretty high.
You think so?
Yeah, I think we'll see a second season.
I think we're at about 35%. And if they kill this Sith, I'm going to be extremely disappointed.
If they, so here's I don't think they'll kill the Sith. But I could be wrong. But I think I think the showrunner mentioned not getting all of his backstory until possibly season 2 or further seasons. So I don't think they'll kill him off. I think that from what I've read, like the show's doing well enough that I could see it getting another season. We got a really cool character. They just put his mask on, helmet on sale. If nothing else, I'm sure it's an expensive show to make, but I get the feeling that they're gonna give this at least another season.
I may get that helmet. It's actually kind of badass.
It's pretty cool. It's one of those, like, I might try to like 3D print it. If I find a good like 3D model of it, I might try to make it because it does look pretty badass.
Yeah, I don't know, because at least the naysayers on YouTube are calling it doomed and it's already canceled.
Yeah.
And, the people involved will no longer be involved in Star Wars properties, but there's no proof behind all the naysay. It's just, I'm going to get on there and I'm going to try to fish for clicks.
Yeah. For better or for worse, like as long as Kathleen Kennedy's in charge, I could see this show getting another season. Right. And again, if the rating, if it doesn't seem like it's been a massive bomb, it hasn't been the success that like maybe The Mandalorian was, but it hasn't been a massive bomb. It seems like they're allowing, the participants involved in it to speak their minds, and that there's not like a gag order now on them to not say anything. So I have a feeling that Disney and Lucasfilm was behind them. And so I feel like this show will get another season.
Not that I want to give him a shout out, but you need to look into Mike Zero on YouTube. He's a naysayer, but he makes the same video every single day, but he'll just switch the way he says the names, like in the order in which he says the names, but he'll say the same thing 2 or 3 times, and the guy gets like 100,000 views. I just don't understand why people are so drawn to negativity.
I mean, they are, right? And I mean, that's the things. Those are the videos. There's so many times, whether it's like sports or related to TV or movies, where you'll see even like the thumbnail and like the title will be super negative, and then when you actually read the thing, it's like, oh, that wasn't that bad. So it's kind of what we get. And I was gonna say, before we jump into our other reviews, did you guys see the Alex Pereira fight? Is he the best pound for pound fighter in the world right now?
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't get in the ring with him, but I wouldn't like his chances against John Jones, just because of the size difference.
So,
and Jones's wrestling background.
Yeah.
I think he's, and not to take anything away from him, but I think he's a circumstance of a bit of a weaker division in the light heavyweight right now. I think that some years back, when there was sort of a murderer's row and there was a lot of very good wrestlers as well that had a lot of punching power, that would have been a much tougher division for him to try to conquer. But he's great, like in general, and he's getting better. And he's a great fighter. But I do think a little bit of it is circumstantial. Like, I don't think he could beat John Jones. But then again, I think John Jones it's almost not fair, because who can beat John? No one can beat John Jones. He's the best.
Yeah. What weight would that fight be at?
It would have to be heavyweight. John Jones isn't coming back down. Have you seen him? He's a big boy now.
It would have to be heavyweight now. They couldn't do light heavyweight. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they could win. I mean,
I don't know if John Jones could make 205 again. Like, he's that big.
Probably not. Or maybe a catch weight. I mean, or maybe if it's not for a title, maybe they do a catch weight, something like that, which is strange. In that you rarely see that in the heavier divisions.
He can only fight the people they put in front of him. So weak division or not, the guy has 2 titles in 2 different divisions in less than 10 fights.
He's amazing. There's no question about it. I think that in the light heavy, I think middleweight, I think he's cleaning house. I think light heavyweight, I think that would be a little tougher.
But I think just fair point. Like, I think it's not you don't have like the there was that period where you had like Cormier and Jones and Rumble Johnson
was the spot,
and it was just like murderer's row of guys, and it's not that right now. But
when it was like that, John Jones went through all of them.
Yeah. Well, look, it's
exactly. When it was like
you're
that,
talking about the Michael Jordan of MMA here. So it just
pretty much
just how it goes.
Yeah.
I've said it forever. The only person that could ever beat John Jones is John Jones.
Yes, himself.
Cormier came close a couple times. He had him stunned a few times, but just Cormier, not on his level.
Well, Gus was the closest. That was definitely the closest, right?
Oh, that was such a good fight.
It was a good fight.
Well, but this is what has been bothering me as of late with UFC as a whole. These second fights that we're getting are nowhere close to the first fights. Yeah. Like, they're nowhere near as good.
Yeah, I don't know why that.
We used to see a two.
I don't know why that is.
Just think that, I think the party that wins improves, and they correct the reason why it was close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they get faster in the race is what I'm saying. Like they're ahead. Like this was not a competitive fight.
Yeah.
Although Pereira and Israel had some good battles.
Yeah, I mean, but they fought like so many times. They fought a bunch of 2 or 3 times in kickboxing, a couple times.
For a long time.
I'm not an Izzy fan, but the fact that he knocked Pereira out is fucking amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, he's great. You know, and that's the thing is like anybody at any time, and the fact is like their first fight, well, their first UFC fight, Izzy was winning.
Yes.
Until he lost. You know, and I think the same thing when they were kickboxing. So yeah, I mean, that's just kind of that. You know, kind of them's the breaks, right? With striking is. You know, that when you have that kind of power, it's like,
and you have those gloves that make it that favor the striker, the gloves that turn your hand into a weapon. So
yeah. Oh, Justin, you'll appreciate. I took my first wrestling class a couple weeks ago.
A pro wrestling?
I joined the gym. No, wrestling. Like,
what?
So there's a new gym, that I joined. They've got a 1 day a week on Wednesday nights they have wrestling, but I just happen to be free that day.
Why?
Normally I can't do wrestling.
Why do you want to have like a sort? Like, dude, you're like, you're almost 50 now, so like, you're just like, I don't care how good a shape you're in, right? Yeah, it's fun until like your neck and your knee, everything hurts. It's just like like
no, I
pain.
know.
It's just not fun. It's not fun. Yeah.
Felt it.
Oh,
yeah, you're talking about sparring. You're talking about sparring being bad for you. Wrestling is even worse.
Yeah.
I mean, I got wrecked in jiu-jitsu once. I thought the guy was going to pull my arm off.
Yeah. No. It was fun. Hurt afterwards, but good for the ego too, because I was by far the oldest person in the class. But
that is good,
held my own, so it was fun.
It's good.
Right, so anyway, we'll get to so let's get to our review. So we'll start with The Boys, since Justin, you've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on The Boys. So season 4, episode 5. Anything you can't get crazier, it does. So it starts off with the V52 Expo, which was the boys take on the D23, which is kind of like like Disney's version of Comic-Con, basically. And there were a million Easter eggs and a million funny moments. Cynic, did you have a favorite like Easter egg or moment based on the V52 Expo?
Not really, because I loved it all. Like I was just eating it up. Yeah. It felt like we were living in a Marvel parody world.
Yeah. How about you, Justin? Any favorite parody moment from it?
Oh man, I don't know. I'm trying.
All right, I will like, list some things.
Yeah,
I thought.
Yeah. Try to. Yeah, list them. It'll come back.
So there was some great stuff, like a bunch of like go broke stuff. So I know Justin appreciated that. They were talking about Marvel's or the VOT phase 7 through 19. So making fun of Marvel. They had the G-Men, which was their version of X-Men.
X-Men,
and a bunch of like if you looked at some Easter eggs, there's a bunch of, or like the video of the video screen they put up, there's a bunch of like X-Men, like I forget what it was called, but like a Days of Future Past parody. There was a Tech Knight, which their Batman character, who talks about their Nirvana soundtrack, and a 12-minute Just Black. So there's some great stuff there. The Guardians of the Godolkin movie. A-Train had a movie. A-Train.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah, the A-Train part is so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so it's great. So
there's so much good Will Ferrell last week was gold.
Yeah, that was amazing. So I mean, there was just a lot of good stuff. But anyway, so we'll go from piece by piece. So let's start with Huey's story, because Huey's story actually got kind of interesting. So Cynic, last week when we talked, you had mentioned that it was like, so what's his name? Simon Pegg is getting paid to just sleep. Do you feel like he earned his paycheck a little bit with this episode?
Jesus Christ, that was a turn, huh? Oh, that was terrifying. I mean, yeah, and not only were the visuals interesting, but he acted his ass off in that 10 or 15 minute span, more so than he'd done in the previous seasons, which was combined, which was great. Like, I've always been a Simon Pegg fan, but that made me that much more.
That might have been his best acting performance, period. So like when, it's like, he slept the entire season up until that moment where he had an episode where he got to do everything. So Justin, he has we've seen these type of like phase through powers, but was this like a unique use of it? Have you ever seen anything like this, like him being able to just explode people from the inside?
I knew something there was going to be that negative turn when they're like, well, we have to give him the V, right? I wasn't expecting him to be so like brutally violent with what he does, and not meaning to be. But I guess in retrospect, it makes perfect sense that he's a nebbish, right? This guy's a nebbish, and yet he's given these ridiculous powers to like, and not know it at the same time. I enjoyed that part thoroughly. It was unexpected when I was watching it, but in retrospect, I'm like, yeah, of course they would give him a power like that. It makes sense that someone so sort of weak and unassuming would be able to do that and not be in control of what's going on.
Yeah. I think I love that part of it. That like he had this crazy power that like, and like how terrifying is that power? Because think about it, like if you have the ability to phase through stuff and then just materialize when you want, like that was actually like that was one of the scariest powers. Like when you really think about it, especially if he has the ability to control it. So I think they did a really good job with that. So like basically, what ends up happening is he doesn't understand. He kind of is not sure where he is or when he is, and eventually they're able to talk him down, and then they have to make that decision to basically he has to kill himself, like, or they have to put him to sleep. So
sorry to interrupt you, but
about
funny, that. Yeah, right. Sorry, I just want to say it was a needed side quest. I'm going to put it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So that's actually my question. Yeah, because I was going to say that, right? Like I complained a little bit that some of the side quests have been kind of unnecessary or boring or taking us away. But did you feel? So Justin, you felt like that kind of side quest was important and valuable for the show?
Yes, it was needed because a lot of the side quests were meandering. Now I had a few issues with another side quest that to me it starts bordering on the cinema sins. But yes, that was needed because it was like, where is this going? Right. It tried to it introduces Huey's mom and it brings her into the fold, and it kind of gives some backstory, and it's just like, but this is sort of all right. It's sad. It's meandering. All right. So he gives him the V, right, and then it's like, whoa, right. And of course, it makes sense once again in retrospect, but I think it needed it because that was a meandering storyline. And it closes the side quest pretty neatly, or at least seeming to, Yeah,
and it forces Huey to kind of face, deal with loss, which he clearly has a hard time with, and they make a kind of big deal about it with his pet Jar Jar, and that the dad wouldn't give him kind of power of attorney because he didn't want him to keep him alive. To do exactly what he ended up kind of doing through his mother. So for that exact reason, it's like, you're not able to do that. And so I think it does help advance Huey's character. Were you going to say something, Cindy?
I was just thinking that it left his character in a better place, even though he suffered this great loss. Like, I think there was more development in Huey's character in those couple episodes than we had seen in previous seasons.
Yeah. And then he's got his mom, and it seems like there was more there than her just leaving them. And so he lost a dad but gained a mom. And yes, Simon Pegg had like his Emmy awards appearance for this for the season. So the rest of the boys hatch a plan to get the virus that can potentially kill Soups, and the plan is to offer Stan Edgar immunity. So he can take them to a barn where they are making the virus, and they get there and they end up at a farm where there are Soup chicken and Soup sheep. How terrifying were they, Cynic?
Yeah, that was definitely an eye-opening situation. I'm pretty sure that there aren't going to be many farmers taking liberties with those sheep in the future. That was unexpected and a lot of fun.
No,
I think the premise of what they're doing is stupid. The whole I'm going to get the virus to give it to. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's a waste of time. But that was a fun sequence of gags.
Yeah, it's funny.
Just any of that plan makes sense, like logically. Yeah.
So I was going to say the exact same thing. All right. So the overall thing is taking shape. Right. They're going to get the virus. It's fairly weak. This idea. Let's make a virus to kill off. To kill Homelander, basically. Like it's. Or which once again, I don't think it's going to work. I think it's going to be about eventually his son is going to have to, it's going to beat him. I think they were hinting at that as well. But yes, it's a sort of a relatively weak plot point. And here's my issue is that there was no urgency It's like, let's get this virus. Like, it felt like there was urgency. Oh no, there was urgency to get out and not get eaten alive by the sheep. That's not what I mean.
Okay.
I mean, for the main plot, it doesn't seem like there was this urgency and that things need to happen now, right? And this sort of it's in a vacuum, it was very fun, and I think it sort of distracted from the fact that it's a little bit of a weak plot point. Like, let's get this virus in it, because you said it doesn't sound very strong. Let's get this virus to kill off the soups. Okay, that's not a super strong plot point, but in the process of doing it, you get this crazy scene, with the V'd up animals. So I don't know. Do you guys think
it's
that
almost
it was
like
something like that?
I think it's like it was like a scene in need of a plot, right? Like they basically was like, we want to have this crazy scene at a farm where there are these, like these juiced up animals, because flying sheep, like that was actually like legitimately scary. But the idea of a virus that kills people with compound V in their blood makes sense. So that is something. But I feel like it was a very haphazard plan and very quickly put together. So I feel like that in that way, it's like, I mean, you could have just, at the end of the day, they end where they could have spent a little bit more time figuring out, which is they've got the scientists and now they're going to try to build it.
The good of it was that we got the best line of the boys ever. That guy's in no condition to fuck a sheep is one of the best lines. I laughed my ass off at that.
Great.
The bad was there was no way the butcher had enough time to kidnap somebody, chop their leg off, and then place it someplace where it would be like those sequences of events happened way too quickly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I'm forgetting the guy's name, but the actor that plays Samir, who I guess is typecast now as like mad scientist, because he's in The Mandalorian and kind of plays the same kind of a role. But he's also the father to Newman's kid, and so Butcher's able to. So Butcher kidnaps him, chops his leg off to use it as kind of bait and or not bait, but to show that he's dead. Now they've always kind of had Butcher and Homelander as like two sides of this, but are they you feel like they're making Butcher out to be just as bad as Homelander? It's like he doesn't care if his friend, he does care about Ryan. It's like, ironically, both of them have one thing in common: they care about Ryan and nothing else. And does it seem like they're almost making Butcher like too evil or too bad, or has he always kind of been like that?
It almost feels like they're trying to make them equals. Like in the sense of their actions hold the same amount of weight, whether it be guilt or innocence. Like they're trying to slightly humanize Homelander while making Butcher like this crazy tyrant. Yeah. I did figure something out though, and I think it might be a bit of a spoiler. Do you want me to say it?
I probably heard it or read it, but what?
Yeah, that Jeffrey D. Morgan isn't actually there. He's pulling a Sixth Sense on us.
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is like that the tumor he has, that like sentient tumor, is like causing these visions of Becca and possibly of Jeffrey D. Morgan, forget his name in the show. But that seems right, because it's like when you think about it, like he hasn't communicated with anybody.
No.
And what's his name? Samir kind of gave him a weird look, like, hey, who are you talking to?
Yeah, he hasn't physically touched anybody or done anything. He didn't provide the drugs. There was a lot of things. I was sitting there watching that, and I kind of went back through it. I'm like, yeah, I think this might be symptomatic of the brain tumor.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems like there are characters that are driving Butcher to do things that he needs to do. So that that definitely makes a lot of sense.
Well, in D&D terms, Butcher would be chaotic neutral, while Homelander would be chaotic evil. Chaotic bad. So I think there's the one difference is that so far, yes, is that Butcher will do anything to get the goal, but he won't. He's one tier below or above Homelander in terms of being evil, because Homelander will for no reason hurt people or torture people. Right? For Butcher, at least there's a reason. Like when he went back, to basically terrorize, the scientists, the old crew that were, raising him, basically to terrorize and torture them. And he put that guy in the heating thing, just for fun. So I think that is the one difference. So now what do you guys think of the? I had major problems with it. Starlight's, beating the shit out of what's her name. It's like she got overcome with emotion, and she went to, and because she revealed this stuff about her, and then she went and she loses her cool and beats her up. So
Yeah.
what I'm wondering is, it's very CinemaSins, because Starlight doesn't know that this stuff would be said about her. She didn't, doesn't know what they're capable of. It's like all of a sudden she says these things. Oh, and that's what drives her over the top. It's like, oh yeah, she's like, she's been in fights and stuff. To me, it seemed sort of like a contrived to get Starlight to break character and go to the dark side a little bit, and to cause drama around her. Just to me, it seemed weird.
I don't know. It didn't seem that weird. It's like, I think there was a lot of build to that, right? They have a history. She doesn't want to be Starlight. She's dealing with a lot of stress of, her people getting attacked and assaulted. And then you have, so I could buy that, her as a character has been dealing with kind of this building stress and anxiety. And then it's like, she just explodes, right? When there's this very personal thing that she doesn't want anybody to know about her comes out. I could see that happen. So I mean, in a show of like, look, the amount of things we get in this show, that's the probably the most believable thing.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
but see, and
No.
see, that's an interesting way to put it. The most believable thing. But see, when everything is so unbelievable or more fantastic, then when you get something like that, it's more in-world reality, is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So it
I
just
know.
didn't
I'm being a little
seem
facetious.
character. It like remember, it's all about in-world. Does it make sense? And to me, it seemed out of left field. But I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it did just because it's like, okay, she's blowing up, and that's that. But I can understand that. It seemed a little bit out of character and out of left field. But I could see somebody under the stress that she's under. I can kind of see that. Right? And it's not like she hasn't fought anybody.
No,
it's like this person's awful, and like, I don't blame her. So
yeah, Sister Sage is really playing them all like a fiddle with this master plan.
Yeah, it's interesting. So
some good stuff with her too.
What do you? What do you think her master plan is? I love that there was a line with her in like with she's trying to figure out who stole the files, and she says to A-Train, like, yeah, they just happened to run away. Like, she clearly very highly suspects him if she doesn't outright know that he stole it. But what do you think her end game is? Like, Cynic, do you think it's you think she's really on Homelander's side? Is she just doing self-interest? Is she secretly a good guy? Like, what do you think her agenda is?
I think 100% self-interest. I wouldn't classify her as a good guy, but I don't think she has any respect for Homelander whatsoever.
Yeah.
And why would you? I mean, considering their positions, this guy is just a pit of need. He's super strong and he can do anything he wants, but at the same time, like, as a person, he's less than nobody.
Yeah, would you agree with that, Justin?
She's rapidly becoming one of my favorite character. Because you don't know her intentions. I was thinking the same thing. What are her intentions? Like, because if she's helping Homelander, then she's bad, right? There's no way around that, right? Even if you have self-interest, if she knows what he's doing. So does that make her bad, or is it part of a greater greater plot? I like that idea where she was like, I want to be dumb for a little while.
Yeah, no, that's great, and that really builds kind of her character, and it's kind of funny how, like, when she's in her normal, how she's like repulsed by the Deep, but then like she's got to give herself a lobotomy. It's like it's interesting, and I really want to know where that character's headed, or if maybe she just is going to end up getting her head lasered in by Homelander.
Do you think that the Deep has become too much of a farcical character? Like, it's like
he's always been,
but he's evolved into like this. Everything with him is a farce. There's almost nothing that can be taken serious.
But I feel like that's always been his character, right?
Okay,
he's been meant to be the butt of the joke since the beginning.
Yeah, I know. Maybe there is a redemption arc there, but I feel like if anybody's getting that arc, it's A-Train, right? Like, A-Train's the one that's was kind of a joke, but he's kind of getting that redemption arc. Like, there's some good in him, where I don't know. I think the Deep is just kind of a joke. And I don't know that they're
because
going to change
when you
that.
started off, the first thing that you see of the Deep is when he basically when he sexually assaults Starlight,
Yeah.
right?
Well, maybe that's it.
He
Maybe
rapes
that's like
her,
that. That's yeah.
so that's a very serious thing. And then for him to then evolve from a rapist into this sort of weird butt of the joke is very it's it's a little weird to me. So like I'm wondering, can he have a redemption angle? Is he going to be there? But yeah, that was the next question I was going to say is who's
Yeah.
getting the redemption? And yeah, A-Train would seem like the natural choice.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe that's it. Like that's the joke for the character now. It's like he committed sexual assault, and now the rest of the for all of time, like his character is a joke. I don't know. I don't know if that make how that works or how that makes sense. But yeah, I don't see it changing. And like I think he plays it well, and I think it's hilarious that he's got
He's funny.
his relationship with with the octopus, and I think it works. The character works the way it is, and I'd rather see A-Train get that redemption arc. So with Homelander, basically Homelander is trying to teach Ryan, and like he basically is like, look, there should be no rules for you. You can do what you want, and he's allowing Ryan that room. Like he doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to have whatever the show they want. Don't do it. Bully the director. Go ahead.
Yeah.
He does, and the director deserved it, right? So, but Ryan seemed to maybe be taking a little pleasure in it. Should we be scared of Ryan kind of jumping on that side, or do you think like no? At the end of the day, like at the end of this, Ryan is going to be the one to defeat Homelander.
Well, he kind of has to be because there's no other plan B.
Yeah.
The plan B is terrible.
Yeah.
And I think that was Joe's biggest fear was that he's either with us or we got to get rid of him one way or the other. Like there is no middle ground because we can't afford to have two of these guys.
Yeah. Well, so question, and I don't know how they're going to do this. So Justin, do you know how it happens in the comics?
No.
Okay, so anybody listening, if you plan on reading the boys' comics, I'm spoiler, so be ready. But this cannot happen in the show, so it's not a spoiler for the show. But basically, in the comics, the Black Noir all along is a Homelander clone who is basically like the insurance policy. So the way that Homelander's defeated is basically like, so things start happening where like Homelander starts doing things and he has no recollection of it and he starts going crazy. And it eventually turns out that Black Noir is this Homelander clone who's the insurance policy. And I won't give away what happens or what leads to it, but basically they fight and effectively kill each other, right? And so that's his demise. So when they kill Black Noir, that part of the story was done, right? So that's not happening, and the new Black Noir is not the Homelander clone. So it's clearly that Ryan has become what Black Noir was supposed to be, but do you see any other way that out of this, or does it have to be Ryan?
I think most importantly is that they're making us ask this question, right? Because they're is it a red herring that he takes joy that he's sadistic? Like, is this kid sadistic? Yeah. Like, does he take joy in hurting others, or was that like just them fooling us to thinking he's going to be like Homelander, or is there going to be, or is someone like? Or is it like the 11th hour? He's going to have to make the right decision. Maybe Butcher's going to aid it along, making the right where he makes the right decision. That seems like the obvious arc that he's going to have, because we see it. He's fighting. It's like between making this. Are you going to the dark side or are you going to be good? So I think they're really setting that up, and they're letting us see that struggle that he's having. But that to me seems like the most obvious direction.
Yeah, I tend to agree on that. All right, so basically the show ends. We get the cameos from the Gen V characters, and Homelander's basically saying, "Look, you know what? We need to be gods." Cynic, should there be a fear that they are going to go further than they've already gone? And what are your final thoughts of the episode and your rating?
Good question. I would probably give it an 8 for the Simon Pegg stuff alone, and the stuff on the farm was a lot of fun. I mean, I don't think the show is slowing down or sputtering at all as far as the pace and the drive of the story. And there's so many unanswered questions that it would definitely, even if it was, it would get me to tune back in every single week. You know, lots of great character work. Anthony Starr has absolutely killed it the whole season, really. Like from the word go, he's been gold. I mean, I'd probably give the episode an 8.
Yeah. How about you, Justin?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a solid 7.5, 8. I still have my issues with the overall urgency of the plot of where it's going, but as an individual episode and just went in there, it was a good one. I would say an 8.
Yeah, and I'll give it a solid 8, maybe even 8.5. Just because it was funny bits, right? Like you had the hilarious the hilarious D20 or V52 or whatever thing was funny. The whole stuff on the barn was hilarious. There's a lot to nitpick, including I forgot to mention our thoughts on Frenchie turning himself in, but I'm sure that he'll be bailed out by the boys. So look, if they could get a pardon for Edgar, then they can bail Frenchie out of jail. But the stuff with Huey and his dad, that performance by Simon Pegg. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in this episode. So really, as a singular episode, I think an 8.5. I think you're right, Justin. As a season, this is what The Boys does. It's like, where is this season going? Like, what's the story right now? Like, we there's a lot of good pieces and a lot of things moving, but I don't know where the really where the story is going. Where we're halfway into it. But yeah, definitely a solid episode. Easy 8, 8.5. All right, so next up we're going to talk about House of the Dragon, which Justin is not yet caught up on.
But I'm getting there. It's good.
Spoilers
I'm enjoying it
for
very
you.
much.
Getting there. But what are you up to so far?
Maybe 3 or 4 season 1.
Okay,
so I just need a good binge day.
Okay. All right. So all right, we're gonna get right into this. So again, we're gonna go kind of storyline by storyline to some extent. Here.
Is this gonna spoil for me?
Yeah, it's gonna spoil stuff for you. Yeah. Yeah, Justin. Sorry. It's your fault. So on Dragonstone, Rhaenyra decided that she's got to send Rhaena to the Vale with Joffrey and a dragon, and then over to Pentos with kids and an egg. So basically, she's saying like, you got to be their surrogate mother and insurance policy, because who knows what's going to happen, and I need to make sure that my kids and that there is a future for the Targaryens and for my lineage and for dragons to some extent. So Cynic, did you agree with that plan? And why do you think Rhaena was so upset? It seems like a pretty big, heavy responsibility.
Well, I mean, look at Ryan. Her sister's flying the front lines. Meanwhile, she's being relegated to a babysitter. So I kind of understand why she would get a little bit upset about that. And I thought, it was a good call. Like she was almost killed in her bedroom last episode. So she doesn't know how this is going to go. Like, and it really looks like Team Green is kind of picking up steam as far as support from the other houses, especially with Damon's miscues. So I mean I agree with all that. Yeah.
And so she also promoted Miss Sarah to her mistress of Whispers. Do you agree with that choice? Like, do you think, or not? Do you agree with that choice? Can you trust her? Well, I guess
yeah. I don't trust her at all. No,
really? Why not?
I don't. I mean, she says that she has beef with the Hightowers. I don't know if I quite buy it. Yeah. She could be just a mole for their side. She still has a lot of interest in King's Landing, and they could be using that to motivate her to get info.
Yeah. Plus, like, who knows what her connection with Damon is? If how. It seems like a weird person to trust with such a high role in your court. Although she did save her life. So
she did do
something
that.
You said for that. So, but don't know that I would trust her that highly. So early on, I think Rhaenyra still has hope. Even up to this point in this episode, there's hope that fighting can be averted. She really wants to avoid an all-out war, rightfully so. Right? She seems to care more about the small folk than the Greens. But do you, at this point, right before we get what we get at the end of the season, do you think she's being naive? at this point, or do you still think there's some hope to maybe make
No, I
or
mean,
she's justified in her hope that maybe they can figure something out?
you can't put the head back on the sun, man. I mean, you're not going to be able to do that.
I mean, they literally did, but
yeah,
I get figuratively. Yeah.
not yeah, but it's not new condition. It's once it's out of the box, it loses all its value. And I just think too much has been done. If there's moves to prevent war, I almost feel like they're moves because they don't believe that they can win. That it would just be easier if the other side gave up, but they're obviously not going to do that.
Yeah, no. I tend to agree. I think she's being a little bit at this point, like they're going to war, and like the cooler heads are not going to prevail, and at the end of the day, like so it'd be different if she was the one on the throne, but she's not. So you can't imagine or expect at this point Aegon to give up the throne or for any of them to. It just wouldn't make any sense. Why would you do that?
Nobody willingly gives up power.
Yeah. So the only way is through war. Like, either that, or if she legitimately, it's like, all right, all whatever, 12 or 19, however many dragons they have, it's like, we're going to just roll up with all of our dragons and you figure it out. Maybe you do that. But yeah, I feel like she's being naive at this point. It's like, look, they, kids have died, we're going to war, and that's that. So Daemon makes it to Harrenhal, and he finds a mostly empty castle where he meets Simon Strong, who immediately bends a knee, like doesn't give up a fight. Daemon has single-handedly, or with his dragon, taken over. And while there, he has nightmares. He's kind of overly suspicious, it seems. It almost seems like it's haunted, and we've gotten that kind of vibe from Harrenhal in the past, in Game of Thrones. Do you think so? Harrenhal being such an important strategic piece, do you think Daemon will be able to hold on to it just by himself with his dragon, or is he gonna deal with problems once the Greens get to him?
Well, how'd that work out for Theon Greyjoy? And he had a host of people with him. It didn't work out well. And as far as it being haunted, I don't know if it's more Daemon self-conscious kind of weighing on him for the things that he's done. But it was definitely an interesting sequence. Visually, it was fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was having those visions anywhere that I would continue to hang out there regardless of the strategic importance.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Castelline Strong there wanted no fucking problems.
Yeah, exactly.
His knee came pre-bended.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm just bending the knee to the first motherfucker that shows up.
Yeah, pretty much. That was pretty funny in itself. But yeah, that's actually what I was going to ask is like, is it Daemon's anxiety, or is it really haunted, or what? He does get there is a nice little cameo with Miley Alcock, sewing the head back on the boy. So that it's an interesting scene. So he's clearly feeling some kind of guilt, or something about it. And then it was almost like a prophecy, like you're going to die in this place. So that's also that. What did you make of that?
Did they mean Harrenhal, or did they mean during the war, or did they mean is it the position that he's in, like this place, the decisions that he's making? I'm not quite sure what they meant in any of that, but it was certainly visually done well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it really was. So it looks good, and I like the way they really made. I think it's again, the effects on this have been great. So really make Harrenhal look more like, I think, the expectation from the books. So it was really cool. So in King's Landing, we get Kristen Cole's first day as the Hand of the King, and he's got his fancy new hand necklace. What'd you think of the design on that necklace?
Just talk about filling up.
Yeah.
I got the same vibes from him that I did when Aegon took the throne for the first time. Yeah. Like, all right, I'm going to do my best, but I don't know how this is going to work out.
Exactly. So, yeah.
I kind of feel that way a lot in life when I know I'm going into something that is probably going to end up in failure. Like every time I put on these headphones, but it's like you just put your head down and barrel through.
Well, speaking of that, so he gets up for his first day and he sees that I guess Aegon has a lot, brought on 2 new King's Guardsmen who are like his buddies that they were just the 2 episodes ago hanging out drinking with. They seem like they do not have the constitution for the job, and they probably, like, I've never seen two worse knights, and they didn't do anything, but they just look like terrible King's Guardsmen. Like, have you been in that situation where like a manager is just promoted to people who just absolutely
that's my
should
job.
not be in that position?
That's my job. At my job, everybody fails up. The worst employees get promoted because those are the ones that want the power.
Yeah.
They don't want the responsibility. They want the power. So I see it all the time. It's like, oh, that guy's a general foreman. Oh, that guy's a foreman. Meanwhile, he was just sleeping in the back last week. So yeah.
It was pretty funny.
I'm familiar.
They play the role well, so it's actually pretty funny. So they had to plan to go take Harrenhal. So Chris and Cole's gonna want to go out. Aegon also wants to join them, and he basically has to be talked down. Eventually, Larys is the one who kind of plants the seed that Aegon's going to usurp him, and that's what's able to to stop him. And so Kristen Cole is joined by Gwaine Hightower, who is Alicent's brother, and they march towards Harrenhal. They're found out. What's the daughter's name that was on the dragon? That is
You got me because they both have similar names.
Yeah,
and
it's
they
like
both
Rainy,
look exactly alike.
Serena, whatever it is. One of the daughters on a dragon sees them, almost is able to kill them, but whatever the case is, she's able to ID them and let Rhaenyra know that they're marching on Harrenhal. So Rhaenyra then hatches a crazy plan, which is to go into King's Landing disguised, in disguise, and seek out Alicent to talk sense into her. So before we get to the scene and what happens, Cynic, which plan was worse, this plan or the one from last week where the twin was gonna go, murder Rhaenyra?
Well, I mean, probably this one, because you're sending the head of the opposition unguarded into a city of millions of people that want to kill her. Yeah, it's. And what's going on in King's Landing that at any point Daemon or Rhaenyra or anybody can just throw on a costume, the old glasses and mustache, and just wander on up to the gates and get in. It seems way too easy to get in there.
Yeah, no, it's insane. Like there's there's no world where that can, and it goes back to kind of her being just naive, because like there's no world where you should be able to do that, or you should do that, because so many things could go wrong. Somebody could recognize her. Someone could just say, "Oh, I'm going to attack her for no reason." Like there's random murders happen all the time there,
and not out of the norm in King's Landing
at times. Like you don't want to do that. And then even if the plan works and she finds Alicent, all she has to do is scream, and like there are King's Guardsmen there, so it just doesn't, like, none of that plan made any sense. And again, like we talked about, like there's no talking sense into her at this point. And even if she talks sense into her, you're not, like, Aegon's not abdicating the throne, so none of it made like any sense at that point. But it's great that she hatches a plan, because I think we got one of the best scenes acting in Game of Thrones House of the Dragon history. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but she makes it there. She makes it to Alicent in the Sept, and initially, they have this initial back and forth, and it's clear they both love each other, and that they don't want to harm each other, and that they don't want to go to war. But there's an amazing moment where Rhaenyra is asking what Viserys was saying on his deathbed, and there's this look of, at some point Alicent says, "No, he told me, and I wouldn't lie to you." And you can see the look on, she does an amazing job of the look on her face, like, "Oh, I you're right." Like she believed her. For that moment, you could see her face drop, her body language change, everything changed, and it was like she was devastated. And then Alicent then adds the part about the prince that was promised, and Rhaenyra realizes, no, that's not it. He was telling you about the prince, about the prophecy. That wasn't your Aegon. That was Aegon the Conqueror. And then you watch Alicent's face drop, and then she says, "You know what? It doesn't matter. Like it's going to happen." But she allows her to leave, and she lets her leave. So how great was that scene?
Oh, it was perfect. It was every bit the argument she had with Daemon last week. The acting has been superb this season in that manner. We've had a lot of these memorable scenes that just shows how much the show has grown from season 1 to 2, and how much the actors have kind of embraced the role, and the content is fantastic. It was I mean, it wasn't just the dialogue or the emotion in the scene; it was the physical, the facial features as well that were extremely meme worthy. Because I saw 20 Renero memes like the next morning when I woke up.
Yeah.
So much like Robert's Rebellion, this is all propagated on a misunderstanding or a lie, and it's crazy how many people are about to die because of this.
Yeah, no, it was an amazing scene, and the kind of the inverse of the Damon scene where they're not yelling at each other, they clearly care about each other and are trying to fix it, and they're kind of quiet, and so where that scene was much more about their emotions and projecting emotions, this was those subtle, like the body language and just the facial expressions and just the subtleties of that is what really sold it, because they. Yeah.
Honestly, though, she wouldn't have let her go. All she had to do was capture her, and that's it. We're over.
Yeah, again, like if you're Alicent at that, so that was the one part, is like, how realistic is that? Now Alicent was sending her letters trying to come to a peace. So maybe there is that bit that, like, look, I don't want anything to happen to you, and and maybe that, but I think they both know they're at a stalemate. So it is a little weird. Like, you're kind of like, it's not quite believable that Alicent would let her leave. But then maybe her the calculus is, well, if we arrest her, who knows what Aegon's going to do to her, and if we but then if we don't, we're going to war. So I don't know. It's like kind of unbelievable. Before we get to our final review, though, one other thing. So we probably had the most graphic scene in Game of Thrones. Like, there was an actual blowjob on screen. Like, dick and mouth and everything. Like, did you ever expect that we'd get that on screen?
I mean, we're kind of shading that way where it's dipping its toe into the water of porn, like some of these shows and movies. So I wasn't surprised about it. I just, once again, it's always male. We get nudity finally, main cast, but it's a dude. You know what I mean? Like, that seems to be the only way we get male main cast nudity.
There was some main cast, that's fair, right? Like, because like there's been a bunch of female nudity, but not nudity from the female main cast. But like, it is what it is. It's
I don't need it. I just see it how it's changed from original Game of Thrones, where
exactly.
She was Amelia Clark was naked every episode. To now, it's everybody has sex with their clothes on to protect the integrity of these up and coming actors and actresses.
It's funny. But it is true. It's like, for main characters, like, getting a lot of male nudity, not as much of the women. But I guess it's payback for all the decades of getting all the female nudity.
Well, it's just like, if we jump back to The Boys, it's the same thing. Like, we've seen every male cast member's ass. I don't think we've seen Starlight's belly button. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's very true. But and then we got the wonderful human centipede scene.
Oh God, that was terrible.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, so quick final thoughts on the episode and your rating for this.
I mean, it was a building episode. We know that something big is coming in the next show, so it was kind of circling the wagons and getting ready for that. I believe all the pieces are in place. We had a few really good moments. That scene between Alicent and it was amazing. Like, it was amazing that when they both came to the conclusion, like, hey, this has all been a mistake and people have died because of it. It was fantastic. I mean, I can't say enough good things about the show. Fortunately, we're running out of episodes of Acolyte. Unfortunately, we're also running out of episodes of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
But overall, I'd give the episode a 7. I thought it was a lot of fun, and we could definitely use less of Eamon's penis on screen next episode.
So I give it a solid 8. A lot of table setting this episode, which is fine. Like, I think we were talking about our critique with the Acolyte, and the Acolyte's episode, which is episode 5 of 8, was a lot of table setting, but that that's better suited for like an episode 3. And so I think this episode is exactly that. You're moving the pieces on the board, but doing it in a fantastic way. There's some really good stuff. There's some funny stuff, and again, I think that scene with Alicent and Rhaenyra just puts it over. It's one of the best scenes I think really in the history of the show. So it really works well and just keeps me excited about what's going on. So I just think the show's done a great job of every episode so far has given us something fantastic in the or gut wrenching, in the end. So it's really incredible that it just keeps doing that. Like every episode's giving you something, and it doesn't feel quite like a filler episode because when you get those moments. So yeah, solid 8 for me, and so far the season's been really fantastic. So yeah, so that is it. As usual, all of our stuff is at portableholepublishing.com. All of our socials are on portable_hole. Look out for the newsletter. We're going to have the first issue of our monthly newsletter coming out later this week. And if you'd like to subscribe, there will be a link to subscribe to the Portable Hole newsletter. We got some good stuff there. So I think that's it. Justin, until next time.
Watch out for the hole.